releasing our truth. Come on, man. Like, you know, why would you release our truth?
Yeah, it definitely speaks to what we've been talking about a lot of profits over people. I said this to some friends in a group chat when they messaged us about the rest of us about the release or that they're not renewing his contract.
Hmm.
I just said this is how WWE functions, especially in the TKO era, profits over people.
Nostradamus. That's what we are. L- like, I get it. He's not been released like the other wrestlers, because like they're just not renewing his contract. But that's the same thing.
Yeah,
It's like because I don't get it because you've just proved that he is a moneymaker for you. He had like the best-selling t I think that R-Truth t-shirt was the best-selling t-shirt.
mm,
Um, he was main event, not main event, but Saturday night's main event, main event.
yeah.
I think, well, he wasn't, but you know what I
He
mean.
was in a program with John Cena.
Exactly. And people like wanted it. Like people were like, oh, R-Truth, yeah. And clearly, like he is a good enough performer that you can have him in stories like that. And so it just like he's a legend and you keep your it's like in any sport. If you have a legend, you don't let them go, or at the very least you aren't the reason they leave. If they are like, I'm gonna leave now,
Right.
that's fine. But you don't say to that legend, oh, by the way, we don't want you around anymore. Off you go.
Right. Yeah. And what's so ridiculous is this is the most he's been featured,
Hmm.
and then they release him. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, so they just got like they basically did the most they could that they felt they could with him, or they, saw this one thing as like this last story for him, this last moment for him, right? They put him in a story with John
Yeah.
Cena, which has been the whole thing for I don't even know how long. I don't remember when he started the whole childhood hero
Wasn't
shtick.
it was it before Cena went? I think it was like around the John Cena Undertaker match, maybe at Mania.
Maybe he was definitely part-time when it
Yeah,
started. It wasn't when Cena was
yeah,
around full-time, which is why the idea of R-Truth interacting with Cena was so intriguing because for
yeah,
so long Cena really wasn't around and R-Truth was pushing this whole narrative of being having Cena being his childhood hero.
yeah.
And
It,
so it was interesting that now Cena is here
yeah,
the most he's been in the past like 7, 8 years. So you
yeah.
have this really good opportunity.
Like it, and I know his contract ends, I think, next week or something, relatively soon. But you also had another pay-per-view. So why didn't you swap the matches if you needed to, and then give Arch and they know when their contracts are expiring. Swap the matches, give R-Truth a main event on a pay-per-view. If you want to have the goodwill of saying goodbye to him, give him this massive fanfare. Give him more than like 4 minutes. You gave him on the network special. But they were like, no, we need to get Logan Paul with John Cena. Logan Paul could have been on the card anyway.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's so it.
Yeah. And it's funny because again, Truth hasn't been super involved
Hmm.
in programming for the most part, right? Like he's
Yeah.
mostly been there to be comedic relief
Mm.
and to help get segments over and make them
Yeah.
fun. What is wrong with that? Like, what is wrong
Exactly.
with just keeping? I imagine he was content with that because he's been doing it for so long now.
Hmm.
Again, unless this was partially his decision in the sense of like, I want something more in the stories for me or my character, which I don't think is the case based
No.
on how it's been for the past probably
Yeah.
decade at this point. Um,
Mm.
so. other than the fact that one report I saw said allegedly he was offered a lower deal and he refused
Hmm.
that, which, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and obviously I've not read this report, but like if it was a lower deal to keep doing what he was doing, of course he would reject it. If it was maybe they were like, we're going to give you less money, but you can be on a Legends deal, or you can basically do what Titus O'Neil does, which is be an ambassador for the company. It will fly you around the world or whatever, and you will pay you less, but you get to travel more. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. But if you're giving him less money to still take bumps, why would he say yes to that? Like, no
Yeah,
one in their right mind would do that. You want me to get hurt, but make less money getting hurt. What do you mean?
right. And it
Uh,
really raises the question of if someone like our truth, who has been well used over the last few
mhm.
years. You know, he was in that Judgment Day storyline for months.
Yeah.
He's had the Cena storyline most recently, which before I actually get into the real point I want to make, a side point is I've noticed WWE doing this a lot where they feature someone in
Hmm.
a major way just before they release them. Again, like just trying to
Hmm.
get the last drop of money or whatever, I
Yeah.
don't even know what the right thing is, just like giving them screen time just to get the most out of them before they
Yeah.
release them.
Yeah. Because it's very clearly disingenuous as well. It's not like we're gonna feature you, so when you're done here, you can go somewhere else and work.
Right.
It because you're not putting them over in that. You're basically burying them as you're letting them go. And I know, like, normally in wrestling, it's you go out and you're back, but
Sure.
you're you're mostly burying these guys and girls before you release them, and so it doesn't really help their stock going to another company.
Right.
Like, obviously, like if you're going on the indies, like formerly known as featured on WWE, yeah, it's fine, but they're going to do that regardless. They do that with like James Ellsworth,
Yeah.
so you know.
Yeah. But the main point I wanted to talk about, which I agree with everything you're saying, but
Mm,
what I actually want to talk about is if someone like our Truth, who's been with the company, I think they said for 17 years at this point, um,
wow.
can get released. What does that say for other mid carders that have been there for a
Hmm.
long time? People like Miz, Kofi Kingston, even
Hmm.
Rey Mysterio.
I'm. This is controversial. I'm surprised Ray's still there. I
Yeah,
think I think he's literally just there to be like, okay, we're going in a community that's got a Latino community. Ray, go get squashed or something.
but that's the thing is now they have Dom, now they have
Hmm.
Andrade, who they're not doing much with, but
They've
he's there.
they've got all
Santos,
of AAA.
they have the LW, they have plenty of Latinos to like
Yeah.
fill that void if they wanted to.
Hmm.
But I don't know. We could see Ray get released or not have
Hmm.
his contract renewed in the near
Yeah.
future because what is he doing other than putting people over?
True. True. And also he's got if he were to be released, he would have gone to AAA to
Hmm.
work, and he's not going to go to AAA to work now, or
I don't
NXT
know.
Mexico, as I like to call
Is
it.
he, is he, you don't think he'll be all elite?
I don't think Ray would go to AEW. I feel like he seems like a principled man, and I don't think he would go work for the competition. He would maybe go to CMLL, yeah,
Hmm.
the which is the bigger promotion in Mexico,
Gotcha.
and they're starting to pay really well right now.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think it's like for a company that's making so much money, now putting potential mid-carders in the mind frame of, oh, I might be out of a job because they don't want to pay me. They want to, get. I saw a TikTok on this earlier where he basically described it how I think of it is. They're going to cut people who are maybe working, getting a little bit more money to bring in new people who they will pay significantly less. And
Right.
it's kind of this very capitalist idea of you get rid of it's kind of what they're trying to do with like AI, but with people, where you get rid of the people who are established and then you bring in new, hungry young people who you're like, oh, you got to work really hard if you want to make the money of the people above you, all
Right.
the same time cutting the people above them as well. So then it's like this like vicious cycle of just in the UK we call it hire and fire.
Mm,
Or no, fire and rehire. I don't know, man. I'm not a politician.
yeah.
Um, where you'll just fire someone and it's like, okay, well now we need to get someone in who's way cheaper to fill in that slot.
Right.
And it's very clear it's what TKO or WWE both want to do.
Yeah. Like in the last few months, we've seen Aleister Black return,
Hmm.
Julia and Stephanie debut,
Hmm.
Zarya as well. Most recently, Mariah May.
Yeah.
So they're grabbing the hot new toys off the shelf and then
Hmm.
getting rid of the old ones. Or
Yeah.
I guess putting the hot new toys on the shelf and taking down the old ones. However that
And
analogy works.
and it's just like I think we've made this point before in a previous episode, so you should go and watch those. But you could still use that older talent. You didn't need to release them. You could have used them to get this new talent over if you really wanted to, and then it would have felt less bad about you releasing them or allowing their contracts to expire. But it just feels like you hoarded this talent for so long, and then you're just suddenly dropping them because you found something new. And it's like, why don't you just, you know, integrate the workers into the business? I'm sure
Right.
I'm sure you'll make money off them.
Yeah. Yeah. And Truth is an interesting case because, I mean, I don't know the man, but based on the fact that he's been with the company for so long, he
Hmm.
seems content with the
Yeah.
role he fills. But not every wrestler is going to feel that way, right?
Yeah.
Like The Miz, based on interviews I've listened to of his, is never content with his position.
Hmm.
And they've kept him for so long. Now, who knows if he'd be successful outside of the WWE?
Hmm.
He seems very suited for WWE and WWE
Yeah.
style. But maybe he'd be inclined to experiment and do things different if he was,
Yeah.
actually given opportunities. And he's never really
Hmm.
been given opportunities to do
Yeah.
more. He's been given
Hmm.
opportunities to fill a role,
Yeah.
and he's done it really well, but he's never been given opportunities to like, I know you have feelings about The Miz, but like you can't
No,
deny the
no.
work ethic and like the effort he puts in is
No,
my
I
point.
I agree. No, I was just thinking as you're saying that I want to see them miss the G1 climax, the grueling tournament in New Japan.
I mean, it could be cool. Like it'd be interesting to see him take on a gimmick that's not just cocky, arrogant,
Yeah, no,
smug
no.
jerk.
I agree. I think, WWE for so long did this thing where it's like again to use like a corporate thing, is when your boss like keeps you just satisfied enough where you're like, I mean, I'm not really happy here, but is it worth me leaving and maybe, I don't know, going somewhere less secure or, maybe being out of a job down the line? It's like
Right.
you're being exploited, but they're making it seem like you're content enough to be there. And it's what they've done with
Sure.
these wrestlers. But our truth seemed like someone who knew the spot he was in, happy with the spot he was in, and well liked by everyone.
Right.
If you're a corporation, why wouldn't you want to keep someone who is the kind of person that makes you want to go to work? If you've got that friend or that colleague at your job that's like, you know what, you make my job bearable, why wouldn't you as a corporation be like, we're going to keep that guy around so we don't need to pay them more money, but at least he's here.
Because that would require them caring about the people.
True. True.
But even what you were saying is really a great point, and it's why people like John Moxley and Cody Rhodes leaving WWE,
Hmm.
even Dolph Ziggler leaving WWE is and has been such a big deal.
Hmm.
Especially before AEW
Yeah.
was really a thing.
Hmm.
because WWE lures you in as the only real opportunity to have a stable career as a professional
Mm.
wrestler. And there are people
Yeah.
who they're happy to make that check and,
Hmm.
do whatever, whether it's just putting on 3 shows a week or, just being
Yeah.
backstage all the time and catering, whatever. I'm sure there's some people who are,
Hmm.
and that's fine, right? But there are plenty of wrestlers who do this because they love wrestling and they want to
Exactly.
entertain and give the audience a show. And I think that's the biggest thing is WWE hinders these wrestlers who are passionate about this art from truly being part of that art and experiencing it
Yeah.
and giving that art to the audience.
Yeah. And I pray that wrestling gets to a point where more and more promotions are popping up. They don't
Hmm.
need to be massive, just so we start getting the promotions that are like, we just want to give people work.
Yeah.
And that's why you should give us money to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. But WWE does a really good job of just introducing new shiny toys for us to
Yeah.
forget about all the scumminess, right? Like,
Yeah, we made the comparison before. It's Andy from Toy Story is dropping Woody when he got his Buzz Lightyear.
yeah.